Hello to all my peeps out there in YouTube land. I am live today on the 29th day of August 2016 here with the Level-Headed News. Out of Indiana, and the sun is shining. There's a little bit of a breeze blowing. 70s, but it's headed for up in the 80s today. It's going to be a hot one. Hopefully you're all making it through this heat wave of a summer that we've had in pretty decent shape. Then I suppose we've had a lot of stuff going on the last few days. Here personally, we've made it through the tractor festival that went on here in my town the last week. It's a big deal, draws in about 20,000 people, and kind of shuts the whole town down. And I have kind of been holed up here and ain't been out of this house in days. Just hunkered in. I set some stuff up on the porch there for a few days, but it kept raining me out. Every time I get stuff set up here, it'd come the rain, and I have to get everything in and out of the rain. So didn't do too well with that, but hey, I gave it a shot. Market may be back coming up this next Saturday, so we'll see if the weather will straighten up. Maybe I can set up at that one. And other than that, I had a birthday Saturday. And me and the dogs and Fred, we all had a little birthday party. Managed to make it through another year and another trip around the sun. A lot of people said I'd never make it this far. We've had a lot of news going on. My goodness gracious, there's been news. All of these URLs that I'm going to talk about today are in the description of the video, so if you'd like to see them close up firsthand, you're welcome to do that. There's some videos involved in some of them, so you might want to take a look at them. First one that I have here, this is off of Zero Hedge, and the title of it is, I've never seen anything like this before. The housing market in the Hamptons, Aspen, and Miami are crashing. We said that it is not looking good for the U.S. housing market, when in the latest red flag for the U.S. luxury real estate market, we reported that sales in the Hamptons plunged by half and home prices fell sharply in the second quarter. The enclave, New York's favorite weekend haunt for the one percenters. This on stock market jitters earlier in the year, which dampened the appetite to buy. However, one can also blame the halt of offshore money laundering, a slow global economy, the collapse of the petrodollar, and the drastic drop in Wall Street bonuses. Loss of confidence that a greater fool may emerge just around the corner, which in turn has frozen buyer interest. Concluded this is just the beginning, and sure enough, several weeks later, a similar collapse in the luxury housing segment was reported in different parts of the country. As the Denver Post reported recently, the high-end sales that fuel Aspen's $2 million a year real estate market are evaporating. County's sales volume down more than 42% to $546.45 million for the first half of the year, from $939.91 million in the same period of 2015. Collapse in transactions means that Aspen's high-end real estate market, one of the most robust in the country, with dozens of options for buyers ready to spend more than $10 million, finds itself sustained nosedive, nosedive, despite dense summer crowds, soaring sales tax revenues, and high lodging occupancy. Like in the Hamptons, the question everyone is asking is why. There are many answers. The market watchers why, and you'll get dozens of answers. Uncertainty around the presidential election, fear of Trump, fear of Clinton, growing trade imbalances with China, Brexit, roller coaster oil prices, Zika, wobbling economies in America, and the list goes on. People are worried about all kinds of stuff these days, says longtime Aspen broker Bob Ritchie. I've never seen anything like this before. Of the collapse has been stunning. Until just last year, the local market was beyond robust, with Pitkin County real estate sales hitting $2 billion in 2015, a 33% annual increase driven largely by sales of homes in Aspen, where prices averaged $7.7 million. However, a slowdown in January turned into a free fall. Sales volume in Pitkin County is down 42% according to data compiled by Land Title Guarantee Company. Almost all of that decline is coming from Aspen, where the market is frozen. Aspen snow mass market in the first half of the year were the bleakest since 2009, and inventory soared to levels not seen since the recession. Statistics are stunning. Single-family home sales in Aspen are down 62% in dollar volume through the first half of the year. Homes priced at $10 million or more, almost always paid for in cash, are down 60%. Last year, super high-end transactions accounted for nearly a third of sales volume in Pitkin County. The high-end buyer, said Tim Eston, an Aspen broker whose Eston report analyzes the Aspen snowmass real estate market, experienced such sudden and precipitous drop in real estate sales, according to the Post. Worse, collapse in the number of transactions, even more disconcerting for brokers who have always trumpeted Aspen as a safe and lucrative place to park a huge pile of money. Prices are dropping. This year, the average price per square foot of Aspen homes dropped 22% to $1,095 from $1,338 in 2015. Recent Aspen sales also closed at more than 15% below listing price, a rare discount. Some brokers suspect that the frenzied sales and pricing pace of 2015 was not sustainable. The present decline is a correction, they say. I think a lot of people thought we would go to the next level in 2016, take the next step up, and that step got buyers, said longtime Aspen broker Joshua Saslove, who just put an Aspen home for more than $10 million under contract. If it closes, it will be just the fourth sale above $10 million in Aspen this year, compared with more than a dozen by this point. I think a lot of developers thought they would push their, say, 5 million properties to 6 million this year, but no one's buying, Saslove said. I don't see that nonchalance or cavalier attitude anymore. To be sure, Saslove is hoping that a rebound is coming. That, however, may be overly optimistic and far more sure, especially if one considers what is taking place in yet another formerly red-hot housing market, where suddenly things are just as bad because, as Global reports, luxury condo sales in Miami have crashed 44%. The latest report by Miami Association of Realtors, the local luxury housing market is just as bad, if not worse, than the Hamptons and Aspen. The latest figures out of Miami this week showed residential sales are down by almost 21% from the same time last year. But as bad as this double-digit decline may seem, it pales in comparison to what's happening at high end of the market. Transactions for properties of $1 million or more in July shows just 73 single-family home sales, representing an annual decline of 31.8%, according to a new report by the Miami Association of Realtors. In past case of condos in the same price range, the number of closed sales fell by an even wider margin, 44.4% to 45 transactions. The Miami housing market and its luxury segment in particular has been softening for the past year, with high-end condos sitting on the market for twice as long as they did a year ago, and sellers offering bigger discounts amid an increased supply. Townhouses and condos of 1 million or more waited on average 162 days for a buyer, and 1.9% increase over a year ago, and the longest time of any other price range, according to the report. As previous two markets, the locals wanted something to blame, in this case the strong dollar, which has significantly increased the value of properties and other currencies, and perhaps rightfully so in sales to foreigners, an important client base. since international buyers acquired more homes in Florida than any other state, according to the National Association of Realtors, have tumbled. Real estate appraiser and data expert Jonathan Miller said that Miami is behaving like most of the rest of the U.S. housing market, which is in fairly good shape overall, but soft at the top. Over the years, in cases of Miami, like in most other coastal markets such as New York and Los Angeles, the housing boom was heavily boosted by foreign buyers who used U.S. luxury real estate as their new form of anonymous offshore bank accounts, courtesy of the NAR's exemption from anti-money laundering provisions. However, the recent drops in commodity prices and the spikes in the U.S. dollar, they have scaled back their purchases. The international component is not as intense, Mr. Miller said. The slowdown, deals are still being done with cash, the preferred form of payment of foreign buyers in the U.S. Some 43% of all sales in Miami in July were closed in cash, however, down from 48.1% the same month last year, according to the latest figures. Buyers are also stepping back. Cash sales for townhouses and condominiums, an indicator of investor activity, hit their lowest level in a year last month, 633 transactions, representing a 30.4% year-over-year decline, according to the report. Forecast for the coming months, sales activity doesn't look likely to surge. There were 72 pending sales of townhouses and condos in Miami in July, which means 25.4% fewer transactions waiting to close than in the same month in 2015, and the lowest number so far this year. Meanwhile, as a result of building boom, luxury condo inventory is up 47.8% from last year, with 2,482 units worth $1 million or more waiting to change hands. This means that sellers of high-end condos will continue to face stiff competition, prompting even fewer transactions and/or lower prices. Collapse at the luxury end has failed to transmit the broader market, less impacted by lack of foreign demand. However, 2 weeks ago, it is only a matter of time before the overall U.S. housing market suffers as well. The only question is whether the NAR and the U.S. Census Bureau, who tabulates the seasonally adjusted data, will admit it before or after the presidential election. The likely answer is it depends on who the next president is. So there you have that information. When it gets soft at the top, it melts down. The housing market is soft at the top. It's going to melt on down. Advice that I've given people recently who have been thinking about selling property: do it now. And do it before the meltdown. The one that we have here is off of KTIV.com, and it says Granville, Iowa farmer says Dakota Access threatened to use eminent domain to acquire his land. I'm going to try to play an ad here, so bear with me a second. Nope, it decided not to. All right, that's good. Granville, Iowa. As the Dakota Access of Oil Pipeline through northwest Iowa, farmers are found topsoil being torn up. The construction is underway in Sioux County, leaving many farmers with an enormous gash through their farmland. Francis Goebel of Granville has opposed the pipeline from day one and has appealed to the Iowa Utilities Board as well as the Dakota Access. He says during negotiations with Dakota Access officials, he realized that there wasn't much else he could do. He tried to bring I love it when it does that. Some of them tried bribing us, said you will sign or else Dakota Access will get a right of eminent domain. We're going to take it anyhow, said Goebel. Century Farm began 1 month ago. Since then, he's actually been told he isn't allowed to be near the auction. I run into problems with them, like I can't even go on my own property without being, don't care, I'm going to go on. As long as it's my ground, I'm going to do it. Plain and simple, said Goebel. I don't care, but I do, and I'm going to protect what's mine. Covering the pipeline, but have not given Goebel or other landowners an idea of when the work will be done. So there you have the information on what's going on with the farmers and how they're being bullied over that pipeline. I've got a little more on that here in a minute. That I have, emergencymanagement.com. And it says, Red Cross denies throwing out food medicine at the Baton Rouge shelter. And some of you may have heard about this last week, that there was food and medicine that was donated to the Baton Rouge flood being pitched. And I found this article. It says, Red Cross denies throwing out food and medicine at the Baton Rouge shelter. But the Red Cross is just one of several agencies working with the facility to provide relief for those affected by the flooding in Louisiana. A widely shared Facebook post on Saturday that accused a Baton Rouge shelter of refusing food and throwing out medical supplies was based on inaccurate information, according to several relief groups affiliated with the shelter. Beth Yancey Houghton, who said she volunteered as a nurse in the River Center, published a Facebook post accusing the Red Cross of taking over the facility and refusing clothes, donations, and various volunteer services unless they are previously contracted. Houghton wrote that 60 boxes of donuts were discarded, hot meals were refused, and medical supplies were trashed because the delivery vendor was not contracted with Red Cross. Nancy Malone, a spokeswoman for Red Cross, said the River Center is in fact a state-run shelter operated by the Louisiana Department of Children and Family Services. The Red Cross is only one of several agencies working with the facility to provide relief for those affected by the flooding in southeast Louisiana, she said. Catherine Heitman, a spokeswoman for the Department of Children and Family Services, denied the Red Cross or River Center's workers that had thrown away donated food, including the 60 boxes of donuts. She said the donuts were preserved in sealable bags and eaten by members of the shelter's mostly volunteer staff. Heitman guessed the boxes Houghton saw in the trash were empty. The center first began accepting flood victims. Members of the Louisiana Department of Health have paid daily visits, offering guidance about what donated food items the staff should keep or discard, Heitman added. If the food donations don't come from a verified source, the health department may say it's okay for workers and volunteers to consume it, but our guidance is not to share with shelter residents, Heitman said. It's the same guidance they give schools. It's the population that's in our care. As for the clothing, Heitman said the River Center does not have the manpower to sift through and sort mounds of donated clothes. Instead, they are directing people to churches and nonprofits that are currently accepting used clothing. Dr. Parim Jabari, Assistant State Health Officer at the LDH, said policy applies for donated medical supplies because the shelter's clinical team consists of federal, state, and local entities, namely the U.S. Public Health Service, LDH, and Capital Area Human Services. They already have a cache of medical supplies on hand. Jabari added that members of the center medical staff had thrown away only donated supplies that had been opened or partially used. The Red Cross is currently in the process of taking over the River Center from the state as evacuees from Celtic Studios and other nearby shelters move in. Malone said the Red Cross's policies bulk donations of new items if they're suited to the nature of the disaster. We don't do smaller quantities or collections of new or used products such as household goods or clothing because we have partners who do that, she said. Still, she added, the power of donations, and I can guarantee we're not throwing away items. What to give? Relief organizations in the state have posted the following information for those interested in donating items for the Louisiana flood victims. Red Cross. Donated items. The Red Cross does not have the capacity or infrastructure to process items such as food, clothing, and medicines, and thus establishes partnerships with local entities to manage these generous donations, Malone said in a statement. It's important to remember that most relief agencies agree that financial donations are the quickest and best way to help help to the people who need it most, she said. It takes time and money to sort, process, transport, and then distribute donated items, whereas financial donations can be accessed quickly and put. This allows families who have lost everything to make their own decisions about what they need most. Capital Area United Way spokesman Sarah C. Hanlon said the agency is currently accepting both donated goods and money between 8:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Those interested in donating supplies are encouraged to visit their website at www.ca.org and click Flood Relief. Evacuees can also call 211 to learn about the closest location to find cleaning supplies, water, food, or places to volunteer. Items they are in special need of include bug spray, school supplies, empty boxes or containers, buckets, mops, cleaning supplies, adult diapers, laundry detergent, and tarps. Salvation Army spokeswoman Patty Odom said the Salvation Army currently has a distribution center at the store inside the Contana Mall in Baton Rouge. The center is now accepting water, personal hygiene products, cleaning supplies, baby supplies, pet food, canned goods, and other non-perishable food items. The Salvation Army is no longer taking used clothing. We have already handed out 137,800 items of donated clothing, and we have mounds and mounds that we have yet to sort through, Odom said. We have more than enough clothes to last us for a long time. Bank. Second Harvest Food Bank is accepting donations of non-perishable food items needed to including canned vegetables, fruit and meats, tuna and chicken, soup and stews, beans and chili, peanut butter, pasta, rice, breakfast cereal, and shelf-stable milk. Donated cleaning supplies such as bleach, disinfectant, gloves, sponges, trash bags, scrub brushes will help residents clean their flooded homes. Cleaning supply donations can be delivered to any Rouse's location or Second Harvest Food Bank from 7:30 a.m. through 4 p.m. Monday through Friday at 700 Edwards Avenue in Elmwood Warehouse District or Second Harvest Lafayette location at 215 East Pinhook. Online donations may be made securely online at www.hunger.org. Every dollar donate helps Second Harvest provide 3 meals to families in need. I have the information on the donations for the next one that I have is off of BizPac Review. It says taxpayer-backed schools hold class on how to stop white people. University of New York in Birmingham is offering a training class titled Stop White People 2K16 to instruct residential assistants called RAs on how to deal with uneducated people who don't believe in ideas like white privilege. Just one of several available to RAs at the school and was discovered by the Binghamton Review. I hate getting old. A student newspaper, the Binghamton Review is a student newspaper. Residential assistants are students who agree to assist with overseeing and monitoring residential life in return for receiving a free room from the school. Apparently, though, Binghamton RAs responsibility of stopping. The premise of this session is to help others take the next step in understanding diversity, privilege, and the society we function with, the class description says. Learning about these topics is a good first step, but when encountered with good arguments from uneducated people, how do you respond? This open discussion will give attendees the tools to do so and hopefully expand upon what they may already know. The is being taught by 3 current RAs at SUNY Binghamton. SUNY Binghamton RAs are being trained to take down uneducated white people. It seems like it would go against the school's own guide for RAs. The program strives to provide environments which create an environment where interaction between people of different cultures and ethnic backgrounds, as well as the sharing of divergent opinions and beliefs are respected and welcomed, the guide says. Taxpayer-backed schools hold classes on how to stop white people. I think that's another case for homeschooling. I have is off of www.japantimes.co.news. Japan Times News. China called SDF dispatch to the South China Sea red line, hinted at military action if sent. Warned a high-level Japanese official around late June that Tokyo should not send self-defense forces to join operations that test the freedom of navigation in the disputed South China Sea, diplomatic sources said on Saturday. Japan will cross a red line if SDF vessels take part in so-called freedom of navigation operations. Ambassador Cheng told the official, the source said. Cheng even hinted at military action. The warning was issued not long before International Tribunal ruled on conflicting claims in those waters. The Permanent Court of Arbitration, The Hague, ruled China's sweeping claims to most of the South China Sea, which overlap with those of the Philippines and other neighboring countries, have no legal basis. China has rejected the ruling, but the United States and Japan have called on Beijing to respect it. China is expected to warning Japan. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi will likely meet Foreign Minister Fumio Kishida on fringes of the between Japan, China, and South Korea later this month. The Japanese government has no plans to join the freedom of navigation operations in which the United States since October has sent warships near artificial islands that China has built in the South China Sea, but it has left room for sending to the disputed waters to protect U.S. ships under new security laws that have expanded SDF roles overseas. Officials have said Japan can dispatch the SDF as long as the mission contributes to the country's defense and does not violate restrictions imposed by the war-renouncing constitution. Sources, Cheng told high-level officials in Tokyo that Japan should not take part in a joint military action with U.S. forces that is aimed at excluding China in the South China Sea. He also said concede on sovereignty issues and is not afraid of military provocations. Apparently aimed at preventing Tokyo from interfering in a territorial dispute in the South China Sea, where Japan has no direct claim. He told Cheng that Japan has no plans to join the U.S. operations, but strongly criticized China's construction of outposts in the waters for military purposes. Amid heightened tensions sparked by territorial dispute between China and Japan over the Japanese-controlled islands in the East China Sea, which China calls the Diaoyus. The China naval ships sailed into waters just outside Japan territorial waters around the islands, leading Japan to lodge protest against the unprecedented move. Foreign Minister Akita Saki summoned Cheng to the ministry and told him Japan would take necessary actions if Chinese naval ships entered its territorial waters. This may indicate that such military intrusion is Japan's red line that would lead to mobilize self-defense force. So there you have the news on the South China Sea. I have is off of Politico, and it says UN report, Assad used chemical weapons defying Obama. Even after he supposedly turned over his entire stockpile, there's an ad trying to run, get rid of that. There we go. Even after he supposedly turned his entire stockpile of chemical weapons 3 years ago, Bashar Assad is still crossing Barack Obama's red line at the UN investigation has found. On Wednesday, that the probe had determined that Syrian president and his regime were responsible for at least 2 cases of the deadly use of chlorine in the Arab country's civil war since 2013. Investigators also blamed the Islamic State terrorist group in an accident involving mustard gas. The findings give Republicans critical of the U.S. president's handling of the crisis in Syria, especially his decision not to militarily intervene in the 2013, even after it became clear Assad was not heeding his warning that that using chemical weapons would cross a red line. The investigators' findings also could set up a showdown between the U.S. and Russia, which has long backed Assad. Secretary or UN Security Council decides what to do in response. Samantha Powers, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, issued a stern statement on the report condemning the horrific and continuous use of chemical weapons by Syria. That the members of the Security Council come together to ensure consequences for those who have used chemical weapons in Syria, she said. It is essential that all state and non-state actors immediately cease weapons use. We strongly urge all states to support strong and swift actions by the Security Council. The White House, however, issued a more measured response that while condemning the chemical weapons used in the strongest terms, did not emphasize the need for an urgent reaction from the international community. The states will work with our international partners to seek accountability through appropriate diplomatic mechanisms, including through the United Nations Security Council and the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. We urge all UN member states and parties to the Chemical Weapons Convention, including Russia and Iran, to participate in this effort, said Ned Price, spokesman for the White House-based National Security Council. Syria into civil war, and in 2012, Obama issued his red line warning to Assad, which many in the international community believed meant the U.S. would act if the Arab dictator used chemical weapons. The following year, it became clear that the regime was employing such deadly agents, killing hundreds of civilians. But Obama chose not to stage military strikes against Assad regime. Instead, the Obama administration, along with Russia and other parties, struck a deal with Assad in late 2013 that allowed him turn over to international bodies his chemical weapons stockpile. Assad also joined the Chemical Weapons Convention. It was in many ways a historic, groundbreaking agreement leading to the disposal of some 1,200 tons of deadly chemical agents through a process guided by the UN's Organization for Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, or OPCW. Obama has said he is proud of his decision to make a deal, arguing it saved more lives in the long run than military strikes. But many Republicans have been critical of Obama's unwillingness to stage a military strike on Assad, saying it made the U.S. look weak and emboldened rivals such as Russia. Representative Ed Royce, chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, told Politico in a statement after Wednesday's report that Assad had made a mockery of Obama's red line. It is now impossible to not deny the regime repeatedly launched gas attacks against people in 2014 and 2015. The California Republican said just a few weeks ago the Assad regime dropped more barrel bombs on a neighborhood in eastern Aleppo. So what's the president going to do about it? Chlorine was not included as part of the agreement with Assad because the product has many legal uses. However, using chlorine as a weapon is forbidden by the Chemical Weapons Convention, which Assad joined as part of the deal. Since 2013, there have been dozens of alleged cases of chemical weapons use in Syria, and this week's Foreign Policy reported that the UN was worried Assad had not turned over everything he was supposed to under the original deal. The report delivered Wednesday was from the Joint Investigative Mechanism, JIM, a panel tied to the OPCW. The JIM's investigators looked into 9 cases of alleged chemical weapons use in Syria since 2013. The JIM's mandate was to name the perpetrators of the attacks, the cases as it could, but it's up to the Security Council now to determine how or whether to punish those. The Islamic State which has territory in parts of Syria and Iraq, is already under siege by a U.S.-led coalition. Assad, meanwhile, is fighting U.S.-backed moderate rebels and an array of other groups trying to topple him. He has been receiving military support from Russia and Iran. Russia, like the U.S., holds a veto on the Security Council, and it could try to derail any serious attempt to punish Assad. However, it might be willing to agree to some sanctions on the regime. The Russian embassy in Washington did not immediately respond to a request for comment. I have the information on Assad. Next one we have is Refugee Resettlement Watch.com. Fence with Russia. Too many refugees coming through the Arctic. So I guess we're not the only one thinking about a fence. Norway is building a steel fence at its Arctic border with Russia after an influx of thousands of refugees last year. The new fence, which will be around 660 feet long and 11 feet high, will stretch from Hog, and then it corrects itself here and says that there was a typo. Storskog is the name of it. Border point sources in Norwegian. Construction of the fence is due to finish before winter frost sets in, making it harder to enter Norway through the forest. Last year, Russia and Norway battled to repeatedly reject the same refugees. Norway said it would begin sending refugees who have Russian residency permits back to Russia, arguing it had received no satisfactory explanation from Russia as to why it sent so many refugees to Norway rather than Finland. And then there's a link you can click. It says, go here to see the graphic with the huge spike in Syrian claiming asylum in Norway in the last year. And for more information on this, you can visit a site called Invasion of Europe to tell you more about it. So I thought I'd bring you that information. I thought that was interesting that there are other countries talking about. Next one we have is off of BizPac Review, and it says immigration group sues Obama administration to find out why prosecutors aren't deporting illegals. Immigration legal advocacy organization sued the Obama administration Wednesday for refusing to provide records of Department of Homeland Security directives telling prosecutors to stop deporting illegals. The Immigration Reform Law Institute is looking for records from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Office regarding DHS directives telling ICE attorneys to lay off deportation proceedings. Apparently, these attorneys are relying on prosecutorial discretion to avoid deporting illegals. Since the Obama administration has flat out refused to divulge any of the information, IRLI is taking the federal government to court. IRLI wants the ICE office to IRLI wants the ICE Office of Principal Legal Advisor to provide information on orders commanding ICE attorneys to dismiss cases based on prosecutorial discretion, guidance commanding ICE attorneys to withhold appeals, to refrain from cross-examining suspected removable aliens, and to refrain from attending removal proceedings, and data orders from OPLA denying ICE attorneys requests for witnesses and ICE agent testimony. OPLA has played a central role in executing a lot of the Obama administration's anti-enforcement policies in the immigration world. In essence, what OPLA has done all the way back to 2011 is tell attorneys to look for cases pending in immigration court that meet specific criteria and consider closing some of them. That practice later morphed into attorneys for aliens affirmatively requesting ICE to close pending cases in an exercise of prosecutorial discretion. This event led to attorneys not even bringing cases against a legal alien unless it met the criteria. That is, they're instructed not to file a changing document against that particular illegal. OPLA headquarters has also definitively directed folks to close cases In certain instances, there's a slight difference between the two terms. Closing a case means the case is still pending, but is just the moment. Terminating a case, however, is tearing up the paperwork and acquiescing the person's presence in the U.S. There have also been some reports that administration officials have discussed how to against agents on the ground enforcing immigration laws who are angry about issues like prosecutorial discretion that essentially nullify their work keeping the borders intact. IRLI is chagrined that it must sue again and again to force the Obama administration to comply with our open records law, but nevertheless, we will continue the fight to expose the misdeeds of this administration and hold it accountable to the rule of law. IRLI Executive Director Dale L. State. The records we expect to receive in response to our suit, we hope will raise public awareness regarding Obama's no borders policy and the unfair burden those policies have placed on Americans and their local communities. Let's hope they get someplace with it. Tab is off of Sputnik News, and it says hundreds demand halt to Dakota pipeline at Washington protest. I told you I'd have more about it. No decision was made on Wednesday as to whether there will be an injunction on the construction of Dakota Access Pipeline as hundreds gathered in protest outside of Washington, D.C. courtroom and in North Dakota. As the injunction hearing took place, actress Shailene Woodley and Susan Sarandon rallied outside the U.S. District Court in Washington, D.C. Simultaneously, in North Dakota, hundreds more marched across the 2,370-foot-long Veterans Memorial Bridge in Bismarck. Both the demonstrations were in solidarity with approximately 2,000 indigenous protesters from more than 45 tribes who are encamped on the Standing Rock Sioux reservations near the pipeline construction site. The Standing Rock Sioux tribe, represented by the environmental law group Earth Justice, is suing Dakota Access, asserting that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers did not conduct a thorough survey of the pipeline environmental impact. The pipeline will transport some 450,000 barrels of oil per day across the Missouri River. Opponents observe that a leak would contaminate the water supply of millions of people. In an earlier protest against the potentially catastrophic pipeline, indigenous youth took to the streets, running 500 miles from Cannonball, North Dakota, to the district office in the United States Army Corps of Engineers in Omaha, Nebraska. While the pipeline was approved, youth ran 2,000 miles to D.C. to rally on the steps of the U.S. District Court. And let's see here. Sarandon acknowledged that activists were so relieved to see the Democratic platform potentially contain anti-fracking policies, only to be disappointed as it was ripped away as their nominee Hillary Clinton's appointees rejected numerous proposals put forth by Sanders supporters. Speaking to reporters after the speech, Sarandon laughed when she would vote for Republican candidate Donald Trump, asserting that she would not. When asked who she will be supporting, she maintained that she has still not been convinced by any candidate. She did, however, urge people to vote in the midterm elections for progressive representatives. To the vehicles marked Homeland Security, we are Homeland Security, and we are here to protect our water, one indigenous speaker asserted, motioning toward the many Department of Homeland Security vehicles parked nearby the rally. Woodley, a U.S. actress starring in the soon-to-be-released Snowden film, has spent months campaigning against the pipeline, as well as spending 2 weeks camping out at the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation. At the rally, she gave an impassioned plea for people to get involved in the effort to protect water sources in the country. 18 million people in our country depend on the Missouri River for drinking water and for tap water. When you turn on your faucet, most of us don't think about where that water comes from. Chances are likely few of us here depend on the Missouri River for our water, Woodley said. What happens when gallons of crude oil contaminates water like that. It destroys our water. It destroys our future generations. Firmly refuted rumors in mainstream media of violence on the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation encampment, as they are absolutely false. She reiterated that she spent the last 2 weeks peacefully camping in solidarity with pipeline protests. The only pipes that are sacred pipes that they pray with, Woodley stated, referring to North Dakota Governor Jack Dalrymple's claim that protesters had pipe bombs. And a judge rescheduled the injunction hearing for September 14th, claiming that it was necessary to have time to think. So there you have that. That I have here is off foxnews.com. Politics. Silence. Dem officials mum as Clinton battles foundation allegations. And we've got some kind of an ad trying to play here. We've got to get that to stop. As critical reports pile up about the actress Clinton Foundation donors enjoyed with Hillary Clinton's State Department and Donald Trump and his allies hammer her over the allegations, few elected Democrats have rallied to the defense. The fact that many of her usual allies are locked in tight House and Senate races may be contributing to the surrogate silence as they focus on their own races. But as Trump's campaign was quick to point out Wednesday, the Democratic nominee has even faced criticism from her own side. Most recently, former Pennsylvania Democratic Governor Ed said in a radio interview that the so-called firewall between the department and foundation officials was ineffective. Reported dealings create a bad perception. Comments like this, combined with the number of tough newspaper editorials, have left the team effectively on their own to combat near constant barrage of Trump content. On Wednesday, Trump called once again for special prosecutor to investigate foundation donors getting special access to Clinton while she was Secretary of State. Favors and access in exchange for cash. Rally in Tampa, she had a scheme. That's why Congress or special prosecutors should look into this. Trump's comments came after the Associated Press reported Tuesday that more than half of the non-government with Clinton while she ran the State Department's donated to the foundation, either personally or through companies or groups, based on a review of agency calendars released. While few elected Democrats have been going to bat for Clinton over the past few days, Trump has enjoyed at least some backup from elected Republicans who have been notoriously uneasy about locking arms with the billionaire businessman. The campaign released a statement Wednesday from Dan Donovan of New York, backing his call for special prosecutor. And Texas Senator John Cornyn, the #2 Senate Republican, asked Attorney General Loretta Lynch in a recent letter to investigate why the Justice Department declined to investigate the Clinton Foundation after emails suggested donors sought preferment while or after Clinton was Secretary of State. Play another doggone ad. Shut off. This kind of conduct reflects worse on the concerns harbored by the public about the abuse of government office to benefit the power at the expense of the American people, Cornyn wrote. Bob Burgess said Wednesday that Clinton's ethical issues have become a liability for some Democrats, though questioned whether they'd be able to avoid it. National Democrats will be unable to successfully distance themselves from the train wreck that is Hillary Clinton, he said. It seems that many Americans are referring to the old adage, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Democratic Governor Terry, a longtime Clinton ally who has boasted about vacationing with the family, appeared to duck a foundation question Tuesday when asked about the issue on MSNBC. He instead responded by questioning Trump's trustworthiness. I would say first and foremost Donald Trump has zero credibility talking about any of these issues until this man, his taxes, Magalif said. Yeah, that he's calling for a special prosecutor is crazy. We need to know what Trump's taxes. New Hampshire, try that again. Got a jumpy page here. Give me a second. Gotta get it to settle itself. Okay, New Hampshire Democratic Governor Maggie Hassan, who is trying to upset first-term Republican Senator Kelly Ayotte, also dodged multiple questions last week on CNN about whether she thought Clinton was honest and trustworthy. The campaign later clarified she Clinton is honest and trustworthy. Late Wednesday, former President Bill Clinton stepped forward to defend his family's foundation, saying that it was trying to do good things. If there's something wrong with creating jobs and saving lives, I don't know what it is. The people who gave the money knew exactly what they were doing. I have nothing to say about it except that I'm really proud of what they've done. The changes at the foundation are needed if Hillary becomes president that weren't necessary when she led the State Department. The foundation won't accept foreign donations and will stop personally raising money for the foundation, he said. We have to do more, Secretary of State, because you make a mistake, there's always appeal to the White House if you're Secretary of State, Clinton said. If you're president, you can't. Those changes in a way that no one loses their job, no one income, and no one loses their life, he said. That's all I'm concerned about. We'll do it as fast as we can. Clinton campaign Brian Fallon on Tuesday said the AP report relied on utterly flawed data. He cherry-picked and limited subset of Clinton's schedule. Spokesman, or no, I got that. Okay, Clinton ally and veteran strategist James Carville told Fox and Friends on Wednesday that nobody in the Clinton family has ever taken a penny from the foundation and, in fact, have given dollars. I think it's a terrific organization, he said. Clinton herself has been off the trail for almost a week to fundraise. Her running mate, Tim Kaine, has been campaign in public and has defended the nominee. On Tuesday, the Virginia senator told an ABC affiliate while campaigning in Las Vegas that the foundation, while Clinton was Secretary of State, was appropriate because of the charitable work it does. So there you have some information on that. Next one we have is off the dailycaller.com. This has been a hot topic. However, it says one fire department EMT has already outsmarted the cost of EpiPens. And you may be aware that once that EpiPen was picture of Hillary Clinton jumped to $300 for an EpiPen. And a lot of people depend on those. Well, basic life support. It's a life-saving device. So this is what this article says. Has found an inventive solution to the problem of soaring cost of EpiPens. An EpiPen is a life-saving epinephrine. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that properly. I'm not in the medical field. Injection device for those suffering from a deadly allergic reaction. The price of the epinephrine, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. The medicine inside the EpiPen amounts to just $1. Daughter of Senator Joe Manchin and CEO of Mylan, the company that makes EpiPens, has raised the price of EpiPen 461% since acquiring the drug in 2007. Ms. Birch, whose company, Mylan, acquired the mechanism in 2007, has raised the price of the device from $56.64 $17.82 in 2015, according to CBS News. Carrie, thrifty paramedic trainer and EMT coordinator at the Salt Lake City Fire Department, came up with a solution to evade the burdensome the EpiPen. Turner, a veteran of the Iraq War, was determined to find a simple solution to curb the cost of acquiring this life-saving drug without paying for the EpiPen. A prepackaged kit inside a zippered pouch, a small vial of the medicine, and a syringe, reports Salt Lake City's KUTV. He then lobbied for its approval with the Utah Health Department. His kit approved for EMT agents to carry and administer. The price of Turner's device is just $3.50, which is stark contrast to the over $300 EpiPen. Agents on how to properly dose and administer the medicine. Turner told the press, "I went ahead and grabbed an orange skin, and we walked through and taught all of our EMTs to draw their own medications. Thus far, there have been no accidents or safety issues with Turner's device. While the FDA has upheld the monopoly on the market medicine's injection device, Turner's solution could bear some light for families and those with severe allergies that are trying to curb costs." Have that information, and if you need more information on that, there's some links in this piece that you can go to check that out. One more article for you, and fuzzy, I'm not going to call it inspirational. I'm just going to call it fascinating, and it's off yahoo.com. This is not bad news. After everything that we hear and how disgusting everything is, it says prospector finds huge gold nugget 2016 and not 1851. It's mainly a term to express when someone gets really lucky nowadays, but by golly, they've done it. A 145-ounce gold nugget has been reportedly found in Victoria, Australia by a real-life prospector and could be worth more than $250,000 or $190,710 American when it goes to auction. The big old nugget has been named Friday's Joy on account of the day it was found. Of it, if you want to see it, in this article, the last URL in the group, says the anonymous prospector initially found a 9-ounce tennis ball shaped gold nugget 2 foot deep, returning the next day to see if there was more, according to a statement from metal detector manufacturer Minelab. And alas, gold was struck. Eureka! About 12 inches below the ground, I could just barely make out the top of something as I began to scrape away the clay and dig deeper. I really couldn't believe my eyes. This wasn't an old piece of steel in front of me, the prospector said in the statement. I just had unearthed a colossal gold nugget. Time find. I was in total disbelief as I didn't think nuggets of this size were still around. The gold nugget is apparently now safely stowed away in a bank vault, but the prospector did hide it in their oven the first night after it was discovered. It's like catching a big fish and not knowing what to do with it. Where do we put it? I washed it in water, covered it in aluminum foil, and kept it in my oven for the first night, they said. Now planning to purchase a van and travel Australia with their newfound wealth. I thought that was absolutely amazing. And you got to wonder if that is formation or if somebody had buried it there over 100 years ago. That is just amazing. So it just goes to show you, you never know if you go looking. It could be something amazing. So I want you to get up from your computer today. I want you to go out and just look. Just look around. You never know what you'll find. You'll never know what you'll see. See things that you'll never see if you're sitting in front of that computer all day. So get out there, kick off your shoes, bury your feet down in the grass, take a breath of fresh air, and enjoy your day. And we'll see you back here tomorrow. Hey, thanks for watching. Bye.